Welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly. I'm Guff,
I'm Javen.
and this week we're talking about we're going to go back to fun games. I mean, it's kind of a boardish, cardish game. Deck builders.
Yeah, I think they fall under board games,
Yeah.
like in the ones that we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, it's something that has kind of. I know you've played a few more different styles than I have, but it's something that's kind of taken control of my mother's life.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I
She
completely
is
forgot
very
about that.
hard into the deck builder, legendary specifically.
Okay,
The
that's
legendary,
Marvel
the legendary
Legendary.
Marvel one.
Okay.
Yeah, she's really just she owns every copy of everyone, even if it's rare. She bought some on YouTube that were ridiculously expensive because they haven't remade those, and they're like $300-400. She's like, I have to have it. Like,
Damn.
she's just that into it. So,
That's awesome.
but yeah, I essentially what's a deck builder?
I guess by technical definition,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah.
a deck builder is typically a game in which you have a starting deck of cards, and then there is some sort of collective pool of cards
Yep.
that you can generate resources and purchase from, and there'll be a pool of things, like a community pile of stuff
Right.
that you can interact with,
Yep.
more or less.
Yep.
Some games have set community piles.
Yep.
Some games have pseudo set, where it's like it's the same for the whole game, but it'll change.
Right.
And then some of them have what's called a open or rotating board,
Yep.
which would be a game like Ascension or Hero Realms,
Okay.
where there's a row in the middle of the board,
Yep.
but when you purchase something from that, it gets removed and something else replaces it
Yeah.
from a bigger deck.
Yeah. And legendary actually has 2 rows to do that.
Yep, and so does
Marvel.
Ascension. So, also I should state, a deck builder is also a game where when you acquire a card, it goes to this discard pile.
Right.
And then after you draw out your starting deck, you draw all the cards in your starting deck. You shuffle everything in your discard
Yep.
and your hand and all that, and then draw a new hand.
Yep.
Well, it's actually, you don't typically shuffle your hand, but that's by technical definition, it's a game where you're building a deck over the course of several turns
Yes.
by acquiring cards and recycling what you have.
Yep.
So I guess let's talk about Legendary a little bit then.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I want to define one more thing before
yeah,
we
go
get too
ahead.
far. In my notice in my playings, whether it's I'll use Hero Realms and Legendary, Marvel, or even DC to some extent. That they're two different. They're both deck builders, but they definitely play differently. Because Legendary or Heroes Realms is definitely me versus you. That's literally what the game's about.
So-
Unless you're playing one of the expansions where it's you versus the mob.
So I think
Right.
what we'll do is we'll probably start at the foundation of
Yeah.
deck builders and then like maybe expand, because Hero Realms and Star Realms both have a mechanic like you're talking about, me versus you.
Right.
There's a mechanic there
Yep.
similar to MTG where you have life totals,
Right.
and so that adds another element to
Yep.
the deck builder.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I wanted to explain before we got going
Okay.
into all the different types of games.
Yeah.
And then there's the category that is a cooperative deck builder. Yet
Yep.
it's still competitive in its own way.
Okay.
And we'll get into that when we get into the deep darks of the
that's like
legendary.
That's legendary. Okay.
Legendary is definitely a cooperative, competitive
Okay.
deck
So
builder.
let's just start with what I think. And I remember looking this up,
Yep.
but I could be wrong. I don't remember now. Like, yell at me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
From my understanding, essentially the first game to bring forth to the masses the deck builder idea was Dominion.
Right.
And Dominion's a really interesting game because it literally is like if you took all the extra fancy stuff out of every other deck builder, you're almost always left with Dominion.
Okay.
Like it's crazy. It's like you take everything out of all the other games that's not like Dominion,
Right.
and you have Dominion.
It's just
It's the foundation for
is it
every.
is it competitive like
It is.
versus?
It is a versus game, but there is no life totals.
Okay.
So the way Dominion works is you have a deck of cards. You draw your hand.
Yep.
Okay, this is sounding familiar.
Yeah.
At the start of the game, they have what's called a kingdom row.
Okay.
I believe it's called the Kingdom Row, but it's basically eight or 10 cards that sits in the middle of the table, and you can buy those cards, but they will still be there.
Okay.
So you can add any number of those copies to your deck, up to however based on the number of players. Typically,
Right.
it's 10 copies.
Okay.
And the game ends when 3 piles anywhere on the table are bought out.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
That's when the game ends, and then you count the points.
Right.
So one of the interesting concepts in Dominion is you can buy cards that are worth points at the end of the game, but those cards, when you draw them, you can't use them to do anything with them.
Okay.
They're the estates, the duchies, and the provinces.
Right.
And so Dominion is this game of you buy cards to eke out advantage so that later on in the game you can buy these victory points and then essentially win the game
Okay.
by having the most. But once you start buying these victory points and buying these cards, they become useless. They're not worth anything
Okay,
anymore.
right.
Like you can't use them for anything, right?
Right.
They just accrue no more advantage.
Okay.
And that was one of the fundamental things about Dominion that makes it a kind of I like to think of it like a balance kind of game.
Okay.
And it's almost a race because you want to get to the point where you can put these cards in your deck quicker than your opponents.
Right.
So the order in which you buy cards and the order in which you draw cards and all this and that factors into it.
Right.
And so the randomness of the game strictly comes from what cards you draw when.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, it's a game of, like we talked about in board games, no randomness. You put what you want in your deck,
Yep.
and you'll get it at some point.
Gotcha.
So that's Dominion in a nutshell.
Right. So that's the base version of deck builders, essentially.
Also,
What it sounds like.
yeah, and also in Dominion, I want to talk about one of the most important features of a deck builder that a lot of people who don't play card games might not fundamentally grasp.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the idea of trashing cards.
Right.
So typically in most deck builders,
Yep.
this is true, you have the option to, some call it trashing, some call it sacrificing.
Discarding, sacrificing. Not discarding.
Discarding is putting in a pile that
Yeah.
you'll use again later.
Yeah.
Trashing is you remove it from your deck for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Now, why would someone want to remove a card from their deck for the rest of the game?
It makes your deck more efficient.
Efficiency. That's
Yep.
exactly correct. Because if I have a card that only gives me 1 buying power, but I have other cards that give me 2 buying power,
Right.
why would I ever want to draw the 1 card? Mm-hmm. Why? There's no reason for it. And
No.
so if I can find a way to get it out of my deck
Yep.
so that I never have to draw it again, now my chance of drawing one of those more powerful cards
Powerful cards, yeah.
goes up.
Yep, absolutely.
That's the idea in a nutshell. Because you're cycling through the deck so many times in a game,
Right.
you're drawing out and then shuffling it all and then
It's
drawing
nice
again.
to have all those good cards constantly be on the front of your deck.
And so one of the important strategies and fundamental things in deck builders that Dominion essentially, thought of
Yep.
was over the course of the game, how many times should I trash a card?
Right.
How many cards should I remove from my deck?
Right.
Because in Dominion, you can actually get soft locked to where you really can't even hardly buy anything.
Oh,
You can always buy copper,
right.
which is like the worst currency
Right.
because it costs 0. But Dominion's also a game where you can't buy for as much money as you have. You can only buy when you have a purchase. Purchase is an action. So you
Right.
need to have the action to actually purchase it.
Okay, gotcha.
It's,
Nice.
It's pretty crazy. But anyways, so that's Dominion. That's
Yep.
to me the granddaddy.
Yeah, that seems like it's the most basic version of a deck builder, without any bells and whistles. It's just really the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's cool. I've never played Dominion. Probably should sometime.
It's very fun.
I think the most basic version of a deck builder I played was probably Hero Realms. It was pretty basic because there's not a whole lot to it. Even if you add the character packs, it just adds a couple items
Yeah.
that you get to reuse on a regular basis. But lots of it's only one use, and then you're done. That's all you get to use it. It is a game changer if you use it at the right time. But
Hero Realms also adds the idea of like combat cards,
and hit points,
right?
Yeah,
and hit
You
points.
definitely
Dominion
have
doesn't
health.
have that.
Yeah,
So,
Right.
but
Well,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. We're
that feels like
upgrading.
it feels like a natural progression.
Yep.
So Hero Realms is interesting because you can also have like innate powers,
Right.
right? Which is a new concept as well. Is that like I am a player as a player, I'm unique.
Right.
Most of the deck builders, the initial ones, had nothing to distinguish you from me when we immediately sit down at the table.
Right.
But Hero Realms has that whole, I'm a cleric, I'm a rogue. Now all of a sudden we have different starting resources, and different starting actions we can take. And that influences how we build our deck.
Yep. That actually, I don't think Hero Realms started. I'm trying to think. I think if you play the base game and don't have the character packs, I think it's
initial.
It's still that more Dominion-ish, just
Yep.
very base. The character packs actually add that extra flavor, which is kind of cool. Another game that does that fairly well is the Marvel version or the DC version of a deck builder. It's
just DC deck building.
Yeah, DC deck building. They do that. That you're either playing, you're playing Spider-Man. Wow. Pow. Playing Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Robin, whatever. You're playing one of those characters, and with those characters, every card you're trying to buy out of that pool, you're trying to make sure that you're getting those cards that work with that character.
That's useful to you.
So it is a little. It's much more competitive, cooperative because you're still trying to beat the board. Still trying. Excuse me. You're still trying to beat the villain, right? But you're still trying to be competitive. You can still screw your friend over while you're playing. So, I like that. I like that aspect of the little bit. I don't play that with my family as much because we're definitely more casual players. But if I was going to play in the store, I would feel more comfortable playing the. I'll watch you burn, because I can screw you over with more than I can in even Legendary. You can't really.
Yeah, so DC deck building.
Have you played the DC before?
I played it once, and it felt a lot more combo-y.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it has to be because you're playing your themed character.
Yeah,
if you get Batman, you really need the Batman tools.
Whereas,
to make your character work.
Dominion and even Ascension, which I want to talk about Ascension a little bit too. Those games, because there's nothing to distinguish you from the only synergies and strategies I can do is by mixing the cards that I buy together.
Right.
And so there is some combos you can do that are very powerful.
Right.
But at the end of the day, everyone has access to them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel, it's like when everybody's playing combo cards or everybody's playing Storm and Magic.
Right.
It's just a board effect at that point. It's not really a combo strategy.
Right.
It's just part of the game. That's kind of how I look at it from a game, like a design perspective.
Yeah, it seems legit.
Ascension's really interesting because Ascension has a battle system like Hero Realms.
Okay.
But I can't fight you.
Oh, okay.
So what happens is in Ascension is you can generate attack points.
Yep.
Combat power is what it's called. But rather than having like an arbitrary you to fight or me to fight, what ends up happening is some of the cards that flip over into the purchasable pool are monsters.
Right.
And you can't buy them. You have to fight them.
Gotcha.
So, and then Ascension has a mechanic for rewarding. It's called Honor.
Okay.
And so that's how the game ends in Ascension is when the honor pool runs out. So like if you fight a bunch of monsters and drain the honor pool really quickly, the game will end before people can buy all the cards to give them points in their deck. So there's this almost like back and forth,
right?
Which is really cool because Ascension was made by Magic the Gathering pros.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was.
And it's the idea of like the aggro versus the control.
Right.
The late game versus the early game.
Right.
So that's a really cool thing about Ascension.
Right. That's
so
interesting.
Let's talk about Legendary.
So yeah, Legendary is the one I've definitely played the most. I mean, I've played a lot of some of the other ones too, but Legendary, yeah, I played the most because my mom's absolutely obsessed with it. So we go over there. It's literally we're gonna go over there. We're gonna play at least one game of Legendary because she's tired of just playing just against my brother all the time.
And see, I've never played it.
Right.
Which I think we talked about maybe running it at the store.
Yes. And we were going to, and then well, health got funny for a
Yeah,
while,
just
but
got,
anyway.
got crazy. Yeah.
So, but we're gonna go. We're definitely gonna go do this. But so legendary is, I'd say it's like the grant. It's like conglomeration of a lot of different deck builders.
Okay.
There is very little you against me. The only you against me is who has the most points at the end of the game. So I can't come after you, take your hit points away from you because you don't have hit points.
Right. So it's like Dominion in that
Yep,
sense.
it has
where
that,
The
but-
only way to win is to have the most points.
To technically win, but
Okay.
cooperatively you have to win too. Otherwise, everybody loses.
Okay. Explain that a little bit.
So you have what is a mastermind. Okay, so you have a villain that will be what everybody at the table is playing against.
Oh, so like the Riddler, the Joker.
Yeah,
well,
something
Marvel,
like that.
Sorry.
But it's Marvel.
Thanos.
There's Thanos.
Okay.
The Phoenix, there's some horrible ones in there.
Okay.
Galactica or whatever his name is, Galacticus.
My Marvel's.
Yeah, no, it's
not very good.
There's some crazy villains in there, and they are like, if you as a group don't talk and play together, you just lose every time.
Right.
Because there's triggers, there's things called masterminds and scheme strikes that when you draw them out of the pool, they go off. Now the villain gets to do something to you. Sometimes it's discard your whole hand,
Wow.
or discard half the cards in your hand, or add a bunch of wounds to your hand, which we're talking about throwing away cards, trash cards. Wounds are trash cards. You don't want to draw wounds.
Oh,
they're useless
they're just
cards.
garbage cards.
Oh, they just throw them into
Okay.
your hand.
Okay.
But then there's these cards you have two layers. You have the cards you can buy from, and they rotate, like we were talking rotating, right? And so they're all your heroes, and they're mostly not they're your heroes, but they're versions of heroes. So you could definitely, if you had Wolverine expansion and the original, you could probably have multiple types of Wolverine playing.
Okay, I got you.
Right.
Which is like the different multiverse kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just a lot of times you don't play with all the expansions because it would be too chaotic. There's so many different rules and
Yeah.
so many different mechanics.
Right.
It's like Magic, but on crack. I shouldn't say Magic has released lots of mechanics over a period of 30 years. Legendary's released them all in a period of like 5 to 10 years.
Not with the intention that they're all supposed to work together.
Right, exactly. So you can get the, but anyway, so you have that. We'll get back to this. You have the row of heroes you can buy, which everybody does every round. You draw your 7 cards. You start off with junk cards, and you really want to get rid of those.
Right.
And then you have a series of villains that pop up every round. At the beginning of every turn, you throw a villain out on the field, a basic villain, not a henchman, they call them.
Okay.
And they work for the mastermind. So he puts out a new one every round. And if they get to the end of the board and fill up, then they go away. Well, depending on what your mastermind is, it's a crazy, but there's multiple ways to lose this game. One, any of your piles draw down to 0, you lose the game. Right? So it doesn't matter which pile it is, other than your personal decks.
So would that be like
It's your heroes or your villains or your...
so that'd be like the global supply, so to speak?
Yes. If any of the
Okay.
global supply disappears, you lose the game.
Okay, so now it's like, well, I want this card. Well, I want this card. Well, I want,
Yeah.
and if everyone buys it, then you're
Yeah, and
screwed.
so you're kind of trying to pay attention to that while you're playing the game, and I think the biggest challenge is you know you're playing, like if we're playing with 4 people, you're really trying not to screw you over because we want you to be able to build and play a good deck, but we also want to make sure you don't get more points than me.
So
it's a really fine
this
balance.
is cool. This sounds really fun.
It is
because-
a really fun game.
because to me it screams to me like politics,
Oh yeah.
right? And
Right.
and there's a lot of games that are like that.
Yep.
But the way that it sounds like you're forced into politics.
Yeah, you have no choice.
Which is funny because like if you ever played Magic the Gathering Commander or
Yeah.
Mario Party
Yeah.
or any sort of game
Pretty much.
where you can ostensibly see someone is going to win, and then everybody just turns and tries to stop them.
Right.
It's the kingmaker thing,
Yeah.
right? But how do you do that in Legendary
You can't.
when
You
I
literally-
can't hinder you?
I mean, the worst thing you could do is say that if you see and I had a card coming along that I really wanted, and you know it goes well with my deck,
I could buy it.
you can buy it.
Right.
Even if it's not good for your deck, you just take that away from me. Okay, so, but who knows? The next card pops up, maybe a better card.
Might be a better
for
card
me.
for-
So
right,
there's
yeah.
that randomness in there that's.
Yeah. That's really cool because to balance the game, like it's funny because like that's how you balance the game, right? Is like you can't play so cutthroat because at the end of the day, you might just lose.
When you play cutthroat, the villain will win.
And I've always liked the competitive / cooperative, because that idea that like if we just don't work together, we're all gonna lose.
Oh yeah, no, and
nobody wins.
I've played a lot of games where, at least when we first started playing, we definitely all were trying to get them to point build-ups before some of us learned that, okay, wait, whoa, let's think this back a little bit. Why are we losing so often? It's literally because if you all win, then only one of you can say, I won the game, but we all won the game. So it's kind of it's kind of a feel good, like there's no real loser, but in the end I won anyway because I have 108 points and you have 30.
Yeah, it's
like I killed it. I got more points through villains and the bystanders, because there's a whole deck of bystanders that caused all kinds of chaos. There's a lot of variables that can mess your game up. And so also another thing with the villains is a villain comes in a pile of, I think it's 4 or 5 different villains in the card, and it's all random. So you don't know what you could think, okay, I'm playing against the Dark Phoenix, which is an absolute horrible villain to play against. She's absolutely terrifyingly, and she just wipes you out quick. Mm-hmm. But there's one version of her that's a little easier to play.
Oh,
so you get a chance, like you'll flip up 5 of them, and you have to beat all 5. But some are much easier to beat early game than some of them are definitely late game wins.
Okay.
So if you get the one that's the late game win, and you're the first time you have to beat her, and you have to earn 16 damage points to beat her out of the round to get that card for yourself, and then put it in your point cards. It's almost like it's hard because every time a Master Strike or one of those variable cards throw in there, it just decimates you.
Right.
And it's really cool. I've enjoyed it a lot.
It sounds awesome. I mean, it's been on my radar to play for I don't know how long.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, things just got in the way, and hopefully now we can.
I guess like if you're thinking about getting into deck builders,
right,
or you want to get into deck builders, do you have one that you recommend for someone first getting in?
You know what? I think the smaller the better. I think Ascension is a good one because I've sold a lot of Ascension starter packs, and people literally bought the starter packs, sat down and played.
Yeah. And
same thing with Hero Realms. It's a little tiny box. It's got maybe 100 cards in it. You sit down, you play.
And they're like $20.
Yeah, I think to $19.99.
I think I don't know if there's a starter set for it, but I can't remember what the base box was.
Right.
But at this point in like my board game career, so to speak, I would almost 100% recommend to someone who's never played a deck builder to start with Dominion.
Yeah, right.
The
that's
core
a
set of Dominion.
Yeah, I've never played it, so it'd be hard for me to say go play that.
I started with Ascension, and it was really hard to like put into my brain as a Magic player the difference between like had I not had the Magic background, I feel like Ascension would have been a little complex to learn, but I've also taught it to people, and it's not that bad.
Right.
But something about Dominion is just very simple, straightforward. The rule sets, there's no weird, quirky rules you have to worry about.
Right.
Like, oh, this card goes under this card, which becomes this card.
Right.
In the base set, it's just like, nah, you play this, someone has to discard, and you get a couple coins.
Right.
Like, it's really straightforward. But I do agree with you that, like, Hero Realms or Ascension, especially because of the starter decks and their design, I think that they're smart to, like, start with those.
And that you open up the instruction manual, it's like a fold open paper. It's literally like nothing to it.
I do think that DC deck building.
That's pretty easy too.
It's pretty easy. Yeah,
that was but it plays faster than the rest of them. I will say that you can play probably 3 games of DC in the version time you play one legendary.
It's cool too because there was a company that made deck builders and it had just a bunch of different IPs. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They made Alien, they made Resident Evil. They made, I can't remember what company it was.
Can't think of it right off the top of it either.
But they were like right around the time of like Ascension, maybe a little bit before.
Right.
So like they were like right on that first jump of deck building. And one of the things I want to talk about a little bit in deck building too, just to kind of like make it a little more interesting, is from like a game design standpoint.
Right.
deck building is really interesting because you're not relying on dice
No.
for your and it goes back to that board game episode we were talking about where you have 3 types of games, more or less.
Yeah, right.
Of pure random, random with strategic elements, and pure strategy.
Right.
And deck builder's like right in the middle, right?
Yep.
And it's a great example of one that you can make less random
Oh yeah, absolutely.
by trashing cards.
Yep.
Or you can make more random by just buying everything that you can get your hands on.
Whatever you can afford, you buy just because.
And now all of a sudden, it's like you can maybe get more explosive plays, but the odds of you drawing 5 garbage cards in your hand is probably like way better.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no.
But the amount of nonsense you could do if you get something crazy could potentially be better.
Well, it's a risk reward. I know I played Legendary one time and I dumped a lot of my purchasing power cards, my 1-star cards, which is what you used to buy, because I wanted to use only my big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one hand I draw all 5 of my big cards. Well, now for 2 rounds I can't buy nothing because I have no purchasing power, because I got rid of the little ones. I couldn't even buy like the little sidekicks that you could purchase for 2.
So that's one of the interesting things too. Is like I don't know how Legendary does this, but like Dominion, you only get 1 card buy per your turn.
Right.
So you can only buy 1 card every time it goes around to your turn. There's things that let you get more buys, but it's usually you have to then waste a card action to play it to get an extra buy. Right?
Yep.
So like you're spending resources that you could be generating coins or generating cards to instead get more purchasing ability.
Yeah.
And Ascension's an interesting one because you're never incentivized to not have bigger numbers.
Right.
Like there's literally no incentive to not have bigger numbers. Like if I get rid of all my 1 purchasing power cards and replace them with 2s, with Ascension, I could just keep buying. There's no limit on how many cards I can buy per round.
Right. Yep.
So that makes the balance a little more crazy, chaotic.
Yeah, Legendary is you will always run out of cards. You can never have an unlimited supply, obviously. But if you draw your 6 cards and they are like there's a lot of buy power and they build up, and you have one time I've had up to 25 points. Mm-hmm. Now the most expensive card is usually 9, right?
Okay.
And so I'm like, oh, for 25 points, I can buy a 9, I could buy an 8, I could buy whatever else, and I could just keep going until I'm out of points. Mm-hmm. But when you buy one, the next one comes out. In Legendary, there's one of the other ones that doesn't do that. I don't remember which one it was. Where you buy it, it doesn't flip out a new one. You have to wait until your turn's over before you flip out new ones.
Isn't there like a Marvel Versus or something like that?
It might be the Rebirth.
I think it's the Versus. Now that I think about it, because we have Marvel Versus on the shelf over there, and I think Versus did Alien and Resident Evil and all the other ones.
That could be, yeah. I don't remember.
That might be right.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, but. Okay, where I was going.
You're flipping cards.
Yeah, you can keep buying. Yeah, you could. If you get enough points, you can spend them all. And same thing with if you get enough attack points, you can waylay all the henchmen you want. Mm-hmm. Or if you get enough to, whatever. If you get enough to beat a boss and get a henchman, have more power to you. It's a little harder than a person. But you can strategize and plan. You literally can do it in this game.
So that's kind of cool because it sounds like if we have a slider right between like economy based game and like battle based game.
Yep.
If you take that slider and put it all the way to the left where it's a pure economy game with no fighting, you have Dominion.
Yep.
But if you take it and slide it all the way to the right, sounds like you end up somewhere in the market of like Legendary or Hero Realms where you want to destroy things and fight all the time.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, because otherwise you're not getting the boss off the field.
That's why I think Ascension is so cool, because Ascension says, hey, let's take that slider and put it right in the middle.
There you go.
You're just as equally likely to have monsters to fight and to get honor that way as you are to win by having big eco and buying stuff that's worth a lot at the end of the game.
Right. That's interesting.
Which is a really cool concept.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, long story short, there's tons of deck builders out there. It's one of the most widely celebrated board game types out there.
Right. Well,
because it can play it quickly.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people, I think, that I've introduced to deck builders kind of, I'm not sure about that, just because it's like it's something different. Like especially older players. I don't even say older players, just players that play the standard Sorry, Life, Monopoly. They're like, oh, I don't know, even Risk, whatever. They've been around forever. They're not the main or Catan.
Yeah.
You throw a deck builder out there, it's like, oh, what am I gonna do with this?
Yeah. Why do I have to shuffle so much?
And all of a sudden they're playing, and it's like, holy crud, this is great.
A great example of this is we have a gamer in our gamer group for board games.
Gamer Joe.
We'll call her Gamer Joe.
Okay. Oh, her Gamer Joe. All right.
Anyways, this player was like, I don't like Magic. I don't like anything to do with
Right,
cards.
yep.
Blah blah blah. I'm like, hey, what about Everdell?
Yep.
Oh, this is pretty fun. I like this.
Yep.
It's all cards, but
Right.
it's fun. Okay, well, what about playing a deck builder? Oh God, no! I don't.
That sounds terrible.
That sounds like Magic. I don't like that.
Right. Yep.
So we play Ascension. Oh my God, this game's really fun. Yeah, this game's really fun because you don't have to pay any money to play it.
Right. It's just fun. It's just fun.
And it's just fun. It's not. We all have an equal amount of chance.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's
It's
one of the things I like about the deck builders is
Yeah.
it takes something that's very fun, like
Yep.
Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, like the
Yep.
constructed decks where you're like, this is awesome, and turns it into a game where we have an equal playing field.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can play however you want. Like I've literally played the guy who just buys stuff and doesn't focus on the killing until later in the game. So I can get some of the bosses. You get 3 or 4 bosses, you can add up to the points that you've got all game by killing henchmen.
Yep.
But I'm not doing anything beginning game. So I'm kind of putting the pressure on the other players and vice versa. I've been the guy who's just waylaying all the henchmen. And at the end of the game, my points don't add up to nothing because, you only have 1 to 3 points per henchman.
Yep. And that's where that politics comes in.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I would recommend definitely people, if you've never played a deck builder, just do it. Go to your local game store. Ask them. I'm sure they're going to be more than happy to sit you down and play.
That is where I've learned to play almost every single deck builder I've ever played.
Yeah.
I have never bought a deck builder and been like, oh, I'm going to learn this. It has almost always been I walk into a game store, someone's playing it,
Yeah.
or someone's like, have you played this? And I'm like, no. And then they
well,
teach
now
me
you
it.
are.
And I'm like, oh, okay, this is good.
Yeah, I know. They're just fun games. It's a different style of game than the rest of them. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like,
And I won't lie, the art on some of those are absolutely
Phenomenal.
fantastic.
Ascension's art.
Like I've appreciated looking at the art on some of these deck builders. It's just like, holy crud. Even the cheesy art from the DC, because DC is kind of the cartoony art. It's nice cartoony art, though.
Dominion literally just reminds me of second edition Player's Handbooks.
There you go.
Like
Nice.
all the art
Oh,
is
man.
just like that. It's so good.
Right. It's good.
Um,
Yeah.
That like 90s fantasy art is
Yep.
It's so nostalgic.
Yeah, I
love
like it.
Anyways,
Anyway, yeah,
that's it for this week. Well, today.
that's it for today.
I would say this week. I
yeah.
realized that because like whenever we record the last podcast, it's like we did them both in the same day, but it's like the week, but it releases on it. It's just weird.
Yeah, we just release them in different times because, well, that's how we roll. So
Anyways, we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
later.